Hello everyone, welcome to yet another 2-Minute Tuesday. This week I want to talk about a requirement that doesn't come up often, but when it does, people really struggle with this one. And what I'm talking about, as you saw in the title of this video, is how do you import data but maintain that global unique identifier, right? Sometimes the times that I've encountered this the most has been when customizations have been written poorly and records are being called by a GUID or a global unique identifier rather than, by other means, rather than by references or whatever it is. So because of that, sometimes companies believe that if you just create the record identical, everything is just going to work. And that's not the case, because the ID of a record is generated by Dynamics or the data platform, the Power Platform, Dataverse. And because of that, you're not going to get the exact match. But what if you could move data from one environment to another and maintain that match? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do today. So what I did is I went to another environment. I went into the accounts list. I went into active accounts and basically exported to Excel. And when you export to Excel, I don't know if you've noticed, but columns A, B, and C will be hidden. And that's because the GUID is actually included as part of the data set. So let me show you, for example, here, and I deleted the other columns. I only kept the GUID. But basically, I have an account name, main phone, address, and I deleted some of the other fields too, just to make the file smaller. But I decided to keep that global unique identifier. So how can I import these records into my environment and keep the GUID, keep the identifier? Well, that's today's tip. So let's start the countdown and let's go. So I'm going to go back into Dynamics, and essentially you're going to go into Advanced Settings, okay? And inside of Advanced Settings, we're going to go to Data Management, and we're going to go to Imports. Now in here, all we're going to do is we're going to import data, just like a regular data import. I'm going to go and select my record, my file. Don't forget to save it as a CSV. If you use the file that you exported, then Dynamics is going to try to pick up and do a match with those records, and it can get confused. So I went ahead and saved my exported Excel spreadsheet as a CSV, comma separated file. So I click on next a couple times. Default scanning is not going to find anything, of course, because I saved it as a CSV. And here is the column that we're trying to match, that width, right? So if you search in here, there is no field called global unique identifier or unique identifier or anything like that. But depends on the entity. It typically has the entity name followed by the term primary key. So notice that account right here, primary key, is available. And that's all you need. You just pick the primary key, and now the GUID will be mapped to it, and all these records will be imported and maintain that GUID. Instead of having Dynamics generate a new one that is a random one, it will actually use the one included on the file. If you were importing contacts, it's probably going to be contact primary key. If you were importing opportunities, it will be opportunity primary key, etc., etc. So typically goes by the name of the entity and then primary key. So that's it. So here I'm going to click on next and next a couple times and submit. And after a few seconds or after a couple minutes, depending on how much data you're importing, all your records will be available in your environment and all the GUIDs will be maintained. I hope you enjoyed the tip this week, and we'll see you next week.